So assessing plant status is the next major topic in the course. Once you've got your plants in the ground and once they're established, it's really about being present with them and seeing what's going on. And I like to think of it as maybe every now and then your kids need their vitamins, or they need a little boundary here or there, right? Anybody know about this children thing? Small guidance, a few boundaries, but get out of the way and let them do their thing. So assessing plant status, being able to look at the plant and see how it's doing, actually look at the plant and see how it's doing is a really valuable skill set, primarily lost as far as I'm concerned these days. Not anywhere near what it was. I think a lot of the people with that knowledge and wisdom have passed. It's still there. I would say this next section is the weakest section of the whole course as far as I'm concerned. It's nowhere near where it could be, but I still think it's very important, so I'm just going to go into it. So we'll get started, and then we'll break for lunch, and we'll finish it up after lunch. So first concept here is that you're interacting with a living organism. I think I was 19 years old, and I actually realized that my actions affected other people. I was remarkably young.
I was going to say that was kind of young.
For a man, that's pretty good. I was like, oh, wait a minute. Depending on how I act, they act differently. So if we know about that with humans, we know about that with cats and dogs and cows, right? How you act with the cow affects how the cow acts with you. My understanding is how you act with the plant affects how the plant acts with you. That all living, things communicate in this vibrational mode. A child doesn't know what you're saying, but they can sure as hell read your energy, right? A dog does not speak English, but they know who's loving and kind and who's not to be trusted. Mm-hmm. Right? And we know this, actually. They're not reading the language, they're reading your vibe. And my perspective is that vibe is a real thing, and we all actually, unconsciously work with it all day long, all life long, and make our decisions based on it. So let's just deal with it and engage it more overtly. And plants are a great way to practice that because no one's there to make fun of you. In fact, they may be really excited that you're actually engaging them. So the first thing I like to suggest that you do is at least occasionally go out and say, hey guys, how's it going? You don't need to say it out loud even. You can just say it with your heart, or you can just feel it, you can think it, wherever you're at. But actually sort of consciously, overtly opening yourself up and being receptive, I think is a really helpful thing. My experience has been when I'm out in the field doing any of a number of different fairly, repetitive tasks. In many cases, I'll get something that sounds like a lyric in my mind, like a 3 or 4 words that comes from a song, or it's just some random organizing of words that I start repeating in this sort of, I don't know what it is. It's like a rap or something. It's a beat. And I'll be going along, like saying this thing over and over again in my head. I'm like, I don't know why I'm saying this over and over again in my head. For 5 or 10 minutes, and then I'll stop and I'll say, what are the words? And I look at the words that I'm actually repeating, and in so many cases, it's really interestingly pertinent to what I'm doing. Like, I feel like when I look at those words, and I'm like, oh, I hadn't thought about that. In many cases, I feel like that's how the plants are able to get through to me. Right? I'm not not anywhere near as sensitive as I'd like to be, but I do get these interesting things that happen, and I'll start thinking about some random topic, some really strange topic. I'll just sort of be meditating on this random thing sort of mindlessly while I'm going about doing what I'm doing, and come to think about, I wonder if the fact that I'm thinking about magnesium has anything to do with my plants. Oh look, I can see. They actually are low in magnesium, right? I find these sort of things happen all the time, and various people see things, some people feel things, some people know things. There's clairvoyant and clairaudient and clairsentient, and there's all these things. Most of these faculties are ones that are absolutely atrophied and were remarkably underdeveloped in our culture, as far as I'm concerned. Doesn't mean we can't still develop them. We're not ever going to be as good as we would be if we started when we were young, but there's a lot of opportunity for improvement, I think. Anyway, what I like to think is that there is communication going on, and the more open I am to it, the more that I'll receive. And so this is sort of the framework that I want to be, engaging when we talk about plant visual analysis and the shape of the leaf and the color of the leaf and the length of the hairs and the thickness of the leaf and the color of the sap. I'm going to give you a bunch of really technical, physical plane things, but there's this whole other layer of insight and, things that pop into your head and all that kind of stuff, which I think is actually where the wisdom is, where the knowledge is, and where a lot of the guidance is. A friend of mine who's one of those people who hears the plants talk to her and, for some perverse reason thinks she's crazy. Those are the people I think that are the most important people to be engaging, are the ones who are plant whisperers, right? They still have that Celtic or whatever your bloodline is, that they're still alive. There's still that vitality. They're still connected to nature. That indigenous thing it's called in many cases. But I don't think it has to be, Native American indigenous. It can be anything. All you have to be tuned into that. Moira called me up one day and she said, Dan, my eggplants are telling me they want lemonade. I'm like, so give me some lemonade. What's the big deal? She's like, why would they want lemonade? I'm like, I don't know why they want lemonade, but you heard them tell you they want lemonade. That's awesome, Moira. Go for it. Give them some lemonade. Right? Like, who knows why they wanted lemonade? There's the randomest things come into your mind. If you know anything about Bach flower essences or homeopathy, you might be out there in the tomato plants and you can't get your head off of calcarb. You just can't stop thinking about calcarb. Well, guess what? The energy of calcarb may have something that the tomato plants want right now. We have all these different modes of interaction. We have a lot of things in our medicine cabinets, in our kitchen cabinets, that are actually have the energy, the essence, the nutrient, the thing that the plants want. It's such a magical world to begin to entertain. But how do you do it? How do you engage it? For me, it starts with the process of going out and saying, hey guys, how's it going? What's up? I like to say that it's coming up to the Super Bowl, and I don't have a TV, and every now and then I like to watch sports. It doesn't really happen very often at all. I haven't watched a football game yet this year, but I'm thinking about going to the bar tomorrow to watch the game. And if I was at the bar watching the game and I made some comment about had a gut feeling about something, that would probably be a fairly safe statement. If I said I was talking to the divas of my tomato plants, or the divas of the tomato plants are talking to me, I might be kicked out of the bar, right? I might argue that the diva of the tomato plant talks to me through my gut. So I sense it in my gut, or I know it. I knew it in my heart, right? We say I knew it in my heart. I could feel it in my heart. That's like totally fine. Everyone knows what that means. It's part of the vernacular. That's actually an antenna system. That's how we communicate. So how you frame it, I don't really care. What makes you feel safe, hopefully you should do that so you aren't feeling threatened by this whole thing. But you can talk about a gut feeling about something, you can talk about the nature spirits. As far as I'm concerned, if you understand the science, it's the same damn thing. Either way, I think it's a really important piece of the puzzle to be engaging. And I talked about the intentions that start on the seeds, but as you proceed through the growing season, there are so many times when you have a feeling of what you should do, and you don't do it. And then you come back a week later and it's too late. You can see you knew what you should have done, and now you can see what's happened because of what you didn't do. And there's still 5 more chances to not screw up that you're given, that you miss, right? And still they do well. And then finally comes September, you're like, all right guys, I'll give you something. And they come out, a little bit of anything, and they jump out with a new level of growth. Like, we get these things all year long, and the more you can engage them and take the opportunity, basically what you're doing is you're preventing the loss of yield from happening. Right? When they're telling you, we'd really like this, that means if we don't get this, we're going to have to downshift.